to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with a noted student activist here, Kimberly Vasquez. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me here.
I feel like you've definitely, so people talk about demographics, right? People definitely will ask me, so, who's listening to your podcast? Who's on your podcast? You've skewed it down so much because you're like 15 or something. You skewed it down so much. I think you're definitely the youngest, but the one of the more impactful guests I've had on. So it's really, really dope to have you on here.
Well, thank you. I mean, when I heard about you with Jesse DeSantrius episode, yeah. I was like, what? This is so cool. Like, I've never heard of your podcast. And like knowing that you told me also that you were a city alum, I was like, you know what? Like, I need to hear more about this. So, yeah.
And now we're coming together to make some magic happen. So, as I tend to start off with, let's hit the vital stats. What's your background, and tell me about your interests in kind of working within the community and helping the community out.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm Kimberly, and I use she, her pronouns, and I am from Baltimore, but my family's from Guatemala, so I'm a Latina, and currently I am a first year at Goucher College. But as I said, I just graduated from City in 2021, so City forever. And my interest in my community, I think it has to do with like a lot about having immigrant parents, and just like in Highlandtown, I feel like there's a strong connection there. When I think of Baltimore, that's where the place that my mind goes. And with the market, with Creative Alliance as well, like all the events there too, with the Artesanas Mexicanas, that's kind of where my head goes into. And so I will say, like, I want to work here in Baltimore. So like, that's a big reason why I stayed like near Baltimore, and I'm a commuter. So like I go in Baltimore to like get to my house, back to my house, Yeah. So I just want to work here in the future. I don't know how my role is going to like look like or anything. Like don't ask me about that yet. I'll have an answer for you later. But yeah, it's just like my city, So that's me.
No, I dig it, and being protective of one city, and it's like, this is where you're from. This is what, like, I had this quote. I think it was in this Gritty Vibes like article, maybe another one, but I know I had this quote about all of the cool things that have ever happened to me have been in Baltimore, and all of the crappy things that have ever happened to me have been in Baltimore. But I think ultimately it makes me who I am, and you got to be protective of that. And that's what I was kind of hearing from you, of the community that you're in. Like, I'm not far from Highlandtown, and I spent a fair amount of time like over there, and then a Creative Alliance, doing all of that stuff, doing art walks and such. So yeah, definitely. Shout out to Night Owl Gallery. Shout out to Charmington Holistics. So what is the students organizing a multicultural and open society, and how did you come to lead it when you did?
Yeah, so another term for like organization is SOMOS, and that's usually how we're known as. And we're a student-led organization at City that tackles systemic injustices in like schools, the Baltimore community, and recently nationally. So we started back in 2014, more as a Latinx cultural club, because that was something that was not at City yet. And with the ICE raids that happened in 2016, 2018, around that time, we transitioned into more, I guess you could say, activists, and we started hosting Know Your Rights campaigns, and we started getting more in touch with the immigrant community outside of City. And when I got there freshman year, my teacher was Franca Mueller-Paz, and she was my Spanish teacher, and she invited me to one of one of the meetings, and I came from like a very small middle school. So like transitioning into city and like seeing this like castle on the hill, I'm like, what is going on here? Like I wanted to find my people. And so I accepted the invitation. And when I got there, I was like literally terrified. I was so terrified and like so inspired too, because I saw these Latinas at the table just voicing their opinions unapologetically.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be them so bad, like just be me, and like be like, F it. You know what I'm saying? If you don't like me, then like look the other way. But I'm going to voice I'm going to say what I want to say. And so some people don't believe me in this, but I was like really, really shy. So I still hadn't found that within myself to, say what I wanted to say. I would just like keep it in my head and, move on with my day. But the time came when they had to graduate and somebody had to step up, and that person happened to be me. So they left a big role to attend to, because they were such role models, I'm like, I could never be at their level. And actually I was talking to one of our past members, Scarlett, and she was like, I remember when you would talk to me so professionally, and we were literally students. And she was like, I was like, I looked at you like so highly, like to me, you were incredible. So of course I had to like send you emails like, good afternoon, like
warm regards.
yeah, that was definitely me. So, I kind of forgot what the question was now.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
So I think you keyed in on it though. Like you describe what the organization is, and you describe like how you came to lead it. So yeah, you answered the question.
Yeah.
So can you speak on the work that you've done during the pandemic around digital divide? Because that's one of the big things that came up in a conversation that I've had around the network and the whole scene here in Baltimore. And I was like, oh, okay. And so give me the story. What's the story there?
Yeah. So like, just to give you like some context, before the pandemic, SOMOS had this big lucha. We call them luchas, which is like fights, Mm-hmm. So we had this big lucha on getting English language learners to highly selective schools. And because currently they weren't, due to the system, they were literally systematically denied to get to these schools like City, Poly, Western, etc. And so we couldn't do that work during the pandemic because our Wi-Fi and like devices and all of that. And we're like, you know what? We were basically like forced to put this on our agenda because we couldn't get anything done without it. And actually, Councilman Zeke, he reached out to me and my colleague Yashira Valenzuela to give public testimony at City Hall. Mm-hmm. And did I mention it was April 2020? Sorry. Yeah, it's like a long time ago.
It feels like it's almost 2 years ago now.
Yes. But our testimony resulted in $3 million going towards the Baltimore City schools to cover costs on devices. But as we know, if you have a computer but you don't have internet, there's only so much you can do. So we decided to contact the main provider in Baltimore, which is Comcast. And in May, actually, we gave out 3 demands. And one of them was increasing their Internet Essentials speed. And Internet Essentials is their low-income plan. Their plan for low-income families.
Sure.
And so we wanted them to increase their speeds because me personally, I have this plan and I could not get online. And I have 2 other siblings. And so we're all on at the same time and we're all having to be in classes at the same time, which, requires more bandwidth. And it just wasn't possible. I was over here using my like cellular data. I'm still today using my cellular data to get onto my Goucher classes that are virtual right now. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's been like 2 years from this. And I'm still like having to, find nicks and cracks on like how to get here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating to know that I'm not the only one, and that, I'm even fortunate enough to have a device and even like internet, even though it's like not even that good. Because there are people here who don't even have a device, or don't even have internet,
Yeah, and I can attest to it from my position of working remotely, right? And having that issue, and even doing this podcast, and the majority of them, especially during 2020 to now, really have been like this. We're recording this via Zoom and all of that good stuff. And I'm not that good live, guys. And you're recording via Zoom and all. And I will say there was a stark difference in just everyone having to be at home at the same time. You could just see the quality was going down. You would have more of this breaking up of the feed. So if you're ever trying to record something, you hear this static and this breaking of the sound. It's like, what are we doing? And even with it, it was not this acknowledgement that there were some issues. And I think you and your colleagues were kind of really causing some of that. Like, okay, we got to cop to this. We got to admit that something shady has been going on, because I noticed an uptick, and I was just like, oh, suddenly the internet's a little better. Isn't that something? And I just remember switching from the Wi-Fi to a wired connection. But, this is always this notion from Xfinity Comcast to really, hey, just buy a higher plan. It's like, no, how about your plan work the way that it's intended to? Because it always has worked that way up until now.
Yeah. And that's a good point too. Like, they say up to a certain amount of speeds, but that doesn't mean you're getting those speeds. Like, you're getting way less than that. Before their increase that they did in March 2021, I was getting the maximum speeds and yet not being able to go like in class. And I remember they would ask like, if they could come at my house. I'm like, what are you guys going to do? Like, it's going to its speed, but it's not sufficient in order to do the tasks that I need. And, that's just like a student perspective. Like, there were people, like you said, working from home. There were also, healthcare moved online. And even social connectivity moved more onto online, more than it was before. And having to learn these platforms too, like Zoom, like I struggled for a while getting a hang of this. And also having not just Zoom, but like Microsoft Teams and stuff like that. So yeah. And, with time, we got the support of like a lot of people. I still like am shook, but we got a lot of support from organizations across the country, and city council people, school board members, and even support of the FCC chairwoman Rosenworcel, which was exciting. Yeah, and I all this pressure building up. There's so much you can like defend yourself with, right? And so all this pressure like building up, and people like, actually being like, yeah, you know what? Like, this is not what it needs to be. And I guess like with everything leading up, 10 months later, Comcast decides to double their internet essential speeds. And it was a big win for us. Like these Baltimore teens, coming up to Comcast's door and like finally, them doing something about it. I don't know. I personally, I hadn't heard of anything like that before, on like the Wi-Fi side of things. And it was really, honoring kind of for our name also to see SOMOS like, it adds city to go like, on the New York Times, like what? Like,
So in that, I want to touch on that actually.
Okay.
I've seen that like the work that you and SOMOS has done has been recognized in Baltimore and in outside of Baltimore in like the New York Times, Reuters, Washington Post. How did that feel? Like, it's like expound on that of really issues that are in Baltimore, because it's broader, but also it's like this is at the root of it's coming from some, as you described, some teens in Baltimore that are really kind of pushing for this thing. And it's like, oh, maybe, wow, I thought they were just shooting at each other. No, they're actually trying to have some change happen. So how did that feel really to have that level of attention from those types of publications?
I'm still shook today. Like, I sometimes don't even believe it myself. I sometimes feel like it's a novela, like I grew up watching novelas,
That's great.
So
That's great.
I'm looking like, when am I gonna wake up from this novela? You know what I'm saying? But yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. But I don't know. I feel like it was such a big transition, because at first when we were like meeting with Comcast and not a lot of people knew about like what we were trying to do. I remember that like 16-year-old girl really nervous to tell these people, to tell the vice president of the region, like, you know what, your internet just sucks. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not working for me, and it's not working for other people in Baltimore, and not just Baltimore, but other cities who are also majority Black and brown,
Mm-hmm.
And so going from that to like now, having our attention, or like people's attention on like the work we're doing, it just like shows like you should never underestimate yourself. And like, the the power youth hold, I don't know how to describe it. You're just so like energized, and I was so thankful and honored to have shed like positive light into Baltimore, because all we get is negative light, and like I feel like that's so unfair. And there's definitely a lot of people here who have big dreams, and they want to make the city better. Every city can be improved, you know what I'm saying? And another point I want to do that Franca actually reminded me a lot during is we are the experts. Nobody can deny you your experience, and I was lucky enough to have the platform to tell my experience to a broader audience. But your experience, nobody can take that away from you.
That's very true, and it leads me. See, it's almost as if you've read the questions. It leads me into my next question, actually. So, I think, and again, touching on it, I think that your work has gained the attention like of various publications across the country or what have you, and it gives them a peek into what happens in the city. So, for the listeners, because we have people listening outside of the city and outside of the country, tell us about your experience in living in Baltimore or what have you. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it taste like? And I guess in that, like, what has your experience been living here for however long, you're 18, 19 years or what have you? It's going to be different for mine, I guess.
It's been like such a roller coaster. I feel like the time went by so fast, I couldn't even like get a grasp of it, especially like being in SOMO starting in high school, like SOMO, we like do so much work. Like I don't even know how I did it all, but like it just occupies all your time. And like, I'm sometimes feel like saying, I'm still a senior, but I'm not no more, I'm like away from that now. Like Baltimore to me, like if I'm being really honest with you, I was never really allowed to go out. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think I talked about this earlier, but a big reason why I stayed here was because I wanted to explore my city, and also be involved with people who are already here, and go to school, and collaborate with others who want to be future teachers, city officials who are going to be future community members, if not already. This is where I want to work. I just, feel like for right now, for the people who are in these powers of decision making, for them to support us by like funding us, inviting us to town halls, like really just gaining our perspective, because it's really unfair for like decisions on like Wi-Fi who like impact, the youth population, for them to be like talking about us, for us, when they never asked,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you touched on this piece. I think you touched on this piece here where you were saying like to paraphrase, only you're the subject matter expert, because I'm talking in business, right? You're the expert on your story or what have you. So I think that takes me to this question of why is it important for you to participate in decision making and community change?
I feel like it's never too much youth voice. You know what I'm saying? We should definitely be at the forefront. And just to give a shout out to also Baltimore Algebra Project and the Intersection, YAR, NYBO, like all these other organizations, y'all are awesome. SOMOS, of course. I'm always happy to represent SOMOS. And as well, with the new leaders going in, I just, like with being in SOMOS, I just learned that there's so many people just trying to do better, and we all want to be involved. But it's rare that we're giving the opportunity, or sometimes that opportunity doesn't come up to us, if that makes sense. And a big part of why I kind of stayed in SOMOS, apart from, meeting these very luchadoras, I don't know how to translate that in English.
No, I think I get it. You're meeting these people who are fighting for their cause and for the cause of a larger group of people. Yes.
Yeah. The big reason why was because I was with people who had similar struggles as me or as my family, and we just knew, I could share my story and you could connect to me and you understood, and you could even like share a story that resembled what I had just said. And so a big part of that is just finding your community, which, SOMOS, I love SOMOS to death. Like I could literally talk about SOMOS the whole day. But yeah.
I'm loving to hear the passion.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just repeating myself now. It's all like SOMOS.
No,
so,
but it speaks to the passion, and I want to get this from you. And we have like 2 more questions before we get to those rapid fire questions that are so scary and deadly. So can you share any like tips or tools that you've used in kind of really getting that response? Because I think you touched on how maybe some folks or young folks who want to be involved that aren't always given that opportunity or know how to really get into that spot and feel like they may not even be heard, or their opinions and their stories don't matter. So what kind of tips or tools do you have? Like, is it just like, I know where you get coffee, change that, fix that, I need my internet speed better? What is it? What are the tools or those tips you would want to share with someone who has a similar goal that you've had?
Yeah, so I would definitely say collaborating with other existing organizations, seeing kind of whose mission resembles what your values are, what you want to do, and that serves your local community. Yeah. I would also say reaching out to city officials. I feel like maybe some people are like, they're never going to hear me. I don't know. I feel like at least you could say you have proof that you reached out to them. They didn't see it. That's on them. You know what I'm saying? Right. You can cross that off your list. And just share your story. And I feel like a big part of why my story was shared was because of the elected officials that were in support of SOMOS's work, and as well like us reaching out to news. I feel like news for one part, it can be like, not, it's a little sus, you know what I'm saying? But,
That's great.
but another part, it could actually really like amplify what you're trying to get to, and just finding your people. Because I feel like I would have never been able to do this by myself. And it's, when we got invited to talk to Vice President Kamala Harris, it was very unfortunate that only one of us could represent SOMOS. And it was more than representing SOMOS. We were representing SOMOS, we were representing city, Baltimore as a whole. And we were literally the only young person in that panel. So basically youth of the nation. So
like a lot of pressure, right? Like, so much.
And so, I forgot where I was going with
No, I see you approach things in a very, it must be that city education, I suppose, is like, we just have the thoughts and it's like, here you go.
Yeah, not the other school. Not the other school.
No, get that out of here. So I got this one, and it kind of ties back into, to wrap it up, and it also kind of shifts into where these next series of questions for rapid fire go. For you, if someone is on the fence of coming to Baltimore and visiting, right now, granted, COVID and all of that stuff is still a thing, but let's just say in general, everyone's safe. What would you say an interesting trait about Baltimore's culture is that you're like, you guys got to check this out. I don't know what you're missing out. I don't know what you're doing. So what would you say an interesting trait is from your perspective?
So when people ask me this, like when I've had like friends at Goucher, who are from other places, and they're like, where should I check out? The first thing that comes up into my mind, like the image that gets into my mind is Cocina Luchadora's like logo. Oh my God, you need to go there. Like the food is awesome. Going inside that place is awesome. And I also heard that Rosaline actually opened a new place, ESOL, in Baltimore, which I haven't gone yet, but I will soon. You know what I'm saying? Like I will very soon. And I'm no doubt in my mind that it's going to be just as amazing as Cocina Luchadoras. I don't know, like just the colors, the environment in there, the staff there is amazing. It just reminds me of my abuelita's home, it feels like home, even though I know Baltimore's home, it's Baltimore's home too, but as well, going back to my abuelita's house is just something special in me. And, getting some tacos and then going to Patterson Park for like a little picnic, like that's my thing, so I would definitely say that.
Oh yeah. I've had Rosaline on before. She's great. And yeah, I've had a fair share of tacos there. So yeah.
And their chata is bomb too. So
I think I've had it once. I liked it. I believe I was down there. That was my plug to get my Topo Chico. I drink a lot of Topo Chico. That's literally my beverage of choice. I hope they're listening. So I'm trying to get sponsored. What can I say? That and Carhartt. That's all. It's just Topo Chico and Carhartt. That's all Rob Lee is about. So now I'm going to get into some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So, all right. It's going to be something. Finish this sentence.
Okay.
City.
Forever.
Thank you. I had to throw a softball in and get you kind of do you have any hidden talents?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's hidden. You know what I'm saying? Like what defines hidden? Okay, go ahead.
Do you have a talent that like only like close friends know of? Like you can juggle, but we're not talking about juggling right now. That seems to be an odd hidden talent or something. It's like, I can make like the fire, like barbecue or what have you. Like, do you have something that not too many people would expect from you or know about you that you're like, yeah, I do that. Yeah, I do that. Hell yeah, I do that.
I was like very much like an athlete, so soccer is like my thing. But I'm not practicing it right now. I'm a little rusty. So, if you were to like, put me on a competition right now, I probably would not live up to your standards. But before, I definitely was.
Okay.
And hopefully in the future, with this COVID thing, I kind of got lazy. But, when I get in form, I will definitely be playing soccer again. So.
I mean, I can see that vibe, a little Patterson Park action, just getting loose over there. I see it. I see you. The most I've done there is play kickball and eat pie time. That's the most I've done over there at Patterson Park. See? Yeah. This is a super broad one, and this is I got one more after this one. What brings you joy? What's something that puts a smile on Kimberly's face?
I've been really obsessed with this Chilean rapper. Anati Hoax, and guess who told me about her?
Who?
Franca. So everything is literally Franca, everything. She's literally I don't know, she's like an angel in my life.
Franca's the source.
Yeah, no, for real. And we actually learned about her in class when we were talking about the Chilean student protests that were happening in 2019. Mm-hmm. And she's one of literally I listen to her daily now. So yeah, especially Antifa dance. So I would definitely check that out.
Okay. Last one I got for you. Many people, I think, over this time of COVID, the last almost 2 years, or a little over 2 years, I guess. I'm not sure. Time doesn't mean anything anymore. People have picked up a new skill or what have you. In doing this, I've gotten better at talking with people and having longer conversations and so on, and really doing research and things of that sort. What skills have you picked up? Because at one point I thought I was going to be a better coder, and that didn't work. I was just nah, screw this. I'm going to throw this computer somewhere. But what skills have you picked up over the last couple of years that you're working on regularly? It's hell yeah, I got something new here in the toolkit.
Definitely public speaking. Before this, I was really nervous to come on here. And that never goes away, the nervousness, yeah. But I've definitely gotten better at I used to take 2 hours before talking to someone, and I would literally go by and read a whole document, create a whole new document of what I remembered, see what I had missed out. And, getting before this interview, I had to kind of, remind myself a little bit of some details because it's been long. Our work with the digital divide has been long. But yeah, I would definitely say that. And also with the pandemic, I feel I kind of started adapting more walking every day, just mm-hmm. for my mental health, just to space out of this little room that I'm in with Zoom and everything, it's just kind of relaxing. So yeah, I would definitely say that.
Yeah, that's big. I've started doing a walking practice, and some of the artists that I've talked to, they kind of do a similar thing, and it helps. It's you're seeing the scenery, you're being in nature, you're being able to bring in all these other things. And I'll say when the beginning of the pandemic, I was literally in this little room all the time and in my studio. But the thing that was happening to me was I was mixing my creative practice with my day-to-day job, and they were bumping up against each other, and it kind of didn't work well. So I was just I need to find ways to get out and do both of these in their specific places. They can't be rubbing up against each other. They can't become the same thing. The fun stuff, doing these podcasts and stuff, cannot become work, because then you don't want to do it as much.
Yeah.
So that's there you have it, folks. I want to invite you. I want to thank you for being on the podcast. And two, I want to invite you to tell the fine folks where to check out you, to follow you for what have you, social media, all of that good stuff. Feel free to share that if you like, or plug whatever you want to plug.
Yeah, so definitely go follow SOMOS out on Instagram. I believe it's at somos.citynights. And you can also check me out at _Vasquez.Kimberly. And definitely be on the lookout for what we're working on right now. I don't want to give too much, but kind of presented to the vice president about creating a program on digital navigators, creating youth jobs and giving them devices, and also getting the community connected and adopt skills in the internet. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But that's all for me. And I'm like super excited for what's to come from this, and also like for what the future holds.
There you have it, folks. Want to again thank Kimberly Vasquez for being on the podcast. And I'm Rob Lee, saying that there is community in and around your city. You just got to look for it.